In the previous lectures, and in fact throughout this course, we've seen that evolution happens everywhere and all the time. In the last lecture, we even saw that our human-dominated ecosystems are strongly influenced by it. As you may already begin to understand, animals and plants in traditional ecosystems are not the only units that can evolve rapidly. In this lecture, we will see that our own bodies can also be seen as environments in which evolution takes place. This means we can perhaps use evolutionary thinking to improve medicine. In the first module of this course, we've seen that evolution is unavoidable if a number of conditions are met. First, there are units that reproduce. Second, these units carry heritable qualities. Third, these qualities are variable. And fourth, resources and space are limited. We normally think of those units as individuals, an individual human or an insect or a plant. In the lecture on trades-offs, we've seen that the bacteria and viruses that make us sick, so-called pathogens, are also units. Our bodies are their environment, and our sickness is a sign that these units have evolved to use our bodies for their benefit. Evolution in pathogens can go fast because they mutate more quickly and because they make a new generation in days, hours, or even minutes. Because their evolutionary clock ticks much faster than ours, new species of viruses can evolve even while they are still in the same patient. This, for example, is an evolutionary tree of different HIV viruses that were isolated from a single patient. All these HIV viruses evolved in the body of this patient in the years since he or she was first infected. The differences in the genetic code between them are as large as between humans and chimpanzees, and some of them may have evolved because of adaptation. By treating infectious diseases, we are applying natural selection. When I have a serious viral infection, my doctor may prescribe me an antiviral drug, which, for example, prevents viruses from replicating. All the susceptible particles of the virus will disappear, and these branches from the virus evolutionary tree inside my body will go extinct. And hopefully I will be cured. But if, among the millions of virus particles, there are a few that have a mutation that makes them resistant, these virus strains will multiply, and after a while I will get sick again, even though I'm taking my drug. What happens in such a case is that by taking a drug, we've caused the viruses in our body to evolve. Our body also has natural defenses against pathogens. Fever, for example. Most of our pathogens have evolved to be most happy at our body temperature of 37 degrees centigrade. That is their temperature niche. When our immune system senses that we have been infected, our internal thermostat is cranked up, which raises our core temperature by a few degrees. We get a fever. For many pathogens, this is too hot and they die. So they have evolved to replicate and spread quickly before they're killed off by the fever. But when we take drugs like paracetamol that bring down our fever, we might be selecting for pathogens with a different strategy. Can you think what that strategy might be? In the medical examples I've given you so far, the evolving units were pathogens, viruses, and single-celled bacteria. But sometimes our own cells behave as evolving units too. Our body consists of millions of cells that all have the same DNA. So we could also view our body as a colony of single-celled organisms that collaborate for the good of that colony. This seems like a ridiculous statement. After all, I feel and know that I am a single individual and not a conglomeration of unicellular organisms. But there's one disease that shows us that this is a dangerous viewpoint: cancer. Cancer happens when cells in our body start behaving like independent single-celled organisms. They start reproducing for their own good rather than for the good of the colony. It can be instructive to view cancer as the result of evolution among all the cells of our body. In principle, these cells are all genetically identical, and their genes have evolved to suppress any individuality. Instead, our genes have evolved to collaborate in the interest of the body of which they are part. But DNA in cells in our bodies can get damaged because of errors when the cells divide, or because of radiation or toxic chemicals. Sometimes such a DNA damage, a mutation, turns back on a cell's individualism. Within the ecosystem of our body, such a cell has an evolutionary advantage, even if it is a disadvantage for the human that this cell is part of. The result is that the cell begins to divide and grows into a tumor. Can you predict how the cancer cells might evolve if anti-cancer treatment is given? In this lecture, I've tried to give you some ideas of how you can expand your evolutionary thinking to encompass what happens in our own bodies as well. This is called evolutionary medicine, and many medical scientists think it will help us to get a better understanding of disease. One scientist who is a leader in the field of evolutionary medicine is Paul Ewald of the University of Louisville, and in the course materials you will find some links to his work.